Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters, I hope you all are doing well. Inshallah ta'ala, I intend to address the topic of Donald Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia. There's been a lot of discomfort and concern expressed by brothers and sisters alike on social media and off social media. And I think it's an important topic to discuss, considering that it has serious implications to the ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, namely us. So I will address this topic not from my own personal thoughts, not from my own personal opinions, not from my own personal views, but rather inshallah ta'ala will suffice myself with the statements of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. And if I do go to the views and opinions of anyone other, it will be only the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, their students and their students, or ulama which we all agree upon in terms of their nobility, their understanding of the religion, in terms of their rank, those who have already passed away, and alhamdulillah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inshallah ta'ala saved them and protected them from falling into the fitna of misguidance. So without any further ado, I want to address 3 points bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. The first point that I think is important to address is the root cause of why leaders become corrupted, why leaders become oppressive, why leaders become deviant. The root cause. You see, because brothers and sisters, if I want to take out a tree, if I trim the branches, that's not going to benefit me much, because I can trim off 1 or 2 branches, but another branch is going to grow in its place. If I want to remove the tree, I've got to go to the roots of the tree and I've got to rip it out from the ground. So how do we deal with this issue of the rulers from the ground? Where do we go wrong? How do these rulers even get into power in the first place? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers this question for us in Surah Al-An'am, ayah number 122, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ نُوَلِّي بَعْضُ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضًا بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and like that we place oppressors over them because of that which they used to do. Now you have to understand, brothers and sisters, that if Allah places an oppressor over a group of people because of what they used to do, what is it that they used to do? It couldn't have been good, right? Because if they were all good doers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not unjust that He would place oppressors over people who are generally speaking good. But the people, when they become evil, when they become corrupted, and the biggest corruption is shirk, and then after that is bid'ah, and then after that it's major sins. When the people become corrupted in this way, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now places a corrupt leader on top of them. And this is a common theme in the Quran. You find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that when the people engage in sins, those sins have a consequence that results in a punishment upon them. Anything that you go through in your life that's bad, that's negative, is due to your sins. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, مَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ حَسَنَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Anything good that comes to you and I is from Allah. وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مِنْ سَيِّئَةٍ فَمِنْ نَفْسِكَ. But anything of harm or evil that touches you is because of your own self, your own sins that you did with your own hands, or that I did with my own hands. So you see, brothers and sisters, the leader being corrupted, or the leader being misguided, or the leader being oppressive is a direct result of our own actions, okay? And this is clear from the ayah that I mentioned to you. But now it's important that we mention who understood this ayah like that, because I can't give you my understanding. I have to give you the understanding of the ulama who preceded us. So Imam al-A'mash rahimahullah, and anyone who's even sniffed the science of hadith, or been even, he's even dipped his toes, or she's dipped her toes into the pool of water that we call science of hadith, will be familiar with Imam al-A'mash rahimahullah. So I don't need to describe him to you, okay? He's a person who's more than capable of explaining to us the ayat and the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam and what they mean in terms of their correct understanding. So what did he say when it came to this ayah? He said that when Allah said, those who are corrupt over them because of that which they used to do. He said this means that when the people are corrupt, Allah places the most corrupt from amongst them as a leader over them. Imam Turtushi rahimahullah, he also echoed this understanding. He said that I heard the people saying a'malukum ummalukum, a'malukum ummalukum, a'malukum ummalukum, which basically means your actions are your leaders. Meaning your leaders will be exactly how your actions are. If your actions are righteous, your leaders will be righteous. But if your actions are not righteous, your leaders will not be righteous. And then he also said that the people will say, كما تكونوا يولى عليكم. The way you are is how your leaders will be. If you're righteous, your leaders will be righteous. If you're not, your leaders will not be righteous. And then he said, I heard this, but I understood this, and I came to terms with this when I came across that ayah. وَكَذَلِكَ نُوَلِّي بَعْضَ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضًا مِمَّا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. And like that, we place oppressors over them because of that which they used to do. And then he quotes many other references to further kind of, explain this. And the reference I'll give to you, inshallah ta'ala, is that of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu that he brings. A man came to Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu and he said to him, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, or leader of the believers, why is it that when Abu Bakr and Umar were in charge, and they were leading and they were ruling, the people obeyed them, but you and Uthman, the people disobey you? Because of course we know of the fitna that came at the time of Uthman and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhuma. So much so that Ali and Uthman radiallahu anhuma were actually killed by those who they were governing over, to show you the extent to which some people were not disobeying these two noble companions who were free from these people's disobedience. They had no connection with it. But look what Ali radiallahu anhu said in response. He said, the reason why the people obeyed Abu Bakr and Umar is because Abu Bakr and Umar had people like me and Uthman to govern over. But the reason why me and Uthman are not obeyed is because me and Uthman had people like you to govern over. So again, Ali radiallahu anhu here is explaining that really and truly it comes down to the people, right? The leader is like a mirror. And this mirror reflects the actions of the people. If the people are righteous, the leader will then reflect that righteousness. And if the people are not righteous, then the leader will be able to reflect that righteousness. Will not be able to reflect righteousness. A leader can only go as far as his people are. Brothers and sisters, I want to now, inshallah ta'ala, mention to you a statement of Imam Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah, and this is narrated in the Mu'jam of Imam al-Tabarani rahimahullah. He mentions a chain from himself to Imam al-Hasan rahimahullah. Imam Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah saw a man who was making dua against Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Who was Hajjaj ibn Yusuf? Hajjaj ibn Yusuf was the tyrannical leader of his time. What was his tyranny like? He killed 120,000 believers in cold blood. Two of those 120,000 believers he killed in cold blood was Sahaba of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. One of whom he hung in the Kaaba. Okay, that was Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, when he said, when I die and you take my funeral procession, then destroy every house on the way. He wanted even destruction to be inflicted upon people even after he's dead. That was this man. A man who, if you go to Imam al-Dhahabi's biography of him, he has nothing good to mention of this particular individual. And this man was a tyrannical individual. So this man that Imam Hassan al-Basri sees is making dua to Allah against Hajjaj. Imam Hassan al-Basri looks at me and says, stop. Don't do this. Why? Because I'm scared that if Allah actually answers your dua and removes Hajjaj, Allah is going to place pigs and monkeys over you. Pigs and monkeys are what's going to govern you. Why is he saying this? Because he understands that Hajjaj is only a manifestation of the actions of the people. Hajjaj, if he goes, that's not solving the problem from its roots. It's going to solve from its roots when you people change yourself. That's what he's trying to say. He's saying Allah might accept Hajjaj going, but you people are still worthy of pigs and monkeys ruling over you. That's the way he sees it. And you know what's shocking is that Imam Hassan al-Basri is talking at a time when the people were righteous compared to us. Allah, subhanallah, subhanallah. Imagine if Imam Hassan al-Basri saw our day, and then the way the people they are about the leaders, always talking about the leaders. They would say, wallahi, these leaders didn't come for any other reason except that you people do shirk. There's not a Muslim country except in which there's shirk in it. Okay? There's not a Muslim country, sorry, that's wrong to say. There are Muslim countries with no shirk that have no graves, but they're very, very, very scarce. You can count them probably on 5 fingers, okay? To mention a country in which the bid'ah is not rampant, again, it's very rare. A country in which sins are not spread, zina or alcohol, whatever have you, is very rare. So Imam Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah is saying, this is you people. And who was Imam Hassan al-Basri? He was a student of the Sahaba. He studied under Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhum. So brothers and sisters, you see, this is something that we've even seen in our very, 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 very recent history. Look at the issue of the Arab Spring, okay? The people uprose against the leaders and they caused the leaders to be removed, okay? And did they remove the leaders? Yeah, they did. Did any benefit come? Did any of them countries see any fruits? Or are they now in a worse off situation that they were in before? Generally speaking, they're in a worse off situation that they were before. So much so that now some of them are actually begging for the old leader to be back. I wish we never removed him. Why? Because you removed him, but that didn't solve the problem. The people were still problematic in terms of their own sins and their own shortcomings when it came to obeying Allah. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused one of the leaders to be removed, He placed another one in place of them. And generally speaking, it's worse than the one who came last. Look at some of the countries, they will tell you our leader is worse than the one who was there before. The one who was there was bad, but wallahi, this one is worse. We wish the other one could come back now. Wallahi, we've seen it in our own history. I don't get it. We've seen it over the last few years. Wallahi, with our own eyes, we're seeing the consequences of these things before us. Yet, some of us, we still refuse to learn, and we still, are just talking about the leaders. And the reason why, we want to talk about the leaders is because it's very hard for us to be a bit, introspective and be like, this is actually our fault, has a role to play with us. Remember, I have to understand, these leaders came from one of the Muslim households, okay? There was a Muslim household from which this leader came out, from which this general of the army came out, from which this minister came out. That household did not nourish this leader to be, or this general to be, or this leader to be upon tawheed and sunnah and ta'ah and taqwa and khashya and khawf of Allah and muraqabatullah. This household didn't nourish him on that. And because the household didn't nourish him on that, he came from a household of probably filth and secularism or whatever have you. And then when he was placed in this position, what else did you expect of him? But you see, if you change the house first, yeah, then inshallah ta'ala automatically you will change the leaders, because the leader will come from this house. Now some people will argue, and wrongly so, they will say it works the other way around. The houses will not be correct until the leaders are correct, and this goes against several evidences. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He will not change the condition of a people until they change the condition of themselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we place the leaders, oppressors over them in authority, bima kanu yaksibun, because of what they used to do. So that's Allah saying, the leader came because of what you used to do, who was oppressive. Now if you do good, then a good one will come because of what you used to do. So you have to fix up first in your house, okay? Establish the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, establish the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your household first, and then it will spread throughout the lands. So that's my first point, my beloved brothers and sisters, and that the issue will not be solved until we fix ourselves first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised us khilafah, a proper khilafah. What did He say? وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Allah said this is a promise that Allah makes for the believers who come with righteous actions, that He will give them khilafah and make them strong on the earth. But what's the condition Allah placed on this? يَعْبُدُونَنِي, worship Allah alone. وَلَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا, and do not worship or do not associate any partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't do any shirk in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. As you can see, brothers and sisters, this is what the issue boils down to. It boils down to you and I. It's a tough pill to swallow, but a pill that we must swallow if we really want to see change in our ummah. The second point that needs to be addressed, brothers and sisters, is how to deal with the problems of the leader. Okay, so we've understood what the long-term solution is, but what about short-term solution? We see the leader might be doing something wrong, he might be doing something corrupted, he might be doing something incorrect. How do we address this matter? Now, you have to be fair, brothers and sisters. Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah are fair. There are two extremes with regards to this. The first extreme are people who would actually justify the atrocities and transgressions of the leader. And these people need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because how can we condone, how can we justify transgression? How can we aid someone in his oppression? That's one extreme. The other extreme are the people who just publicly speak against the ruler. They cause people to uprise and rebel, which results only in fitna and fasad. What's the middle ground? Before I tell you the middle ground, brothers and sisters, I feel it essential to clarify, in case anyone has any misconceptions about myself. And I say this, alhamdulillah, I'm not scared of no one. Wallahi billahi tallahi wa uqsimu bi rabbil Kaaba, I'm not scared of no one. I'm not scared to speak the truth. I'm not on no one's payroll, with all due respect. I'm not a scholar. But just in case you want to put me in a category of scholars for dollars, not that I'm saying I'm a scholar, but a category of people who are for the dollars, then with all due respect, that's not me. And I think my track record, with regards to the way that I speak and the issues that I speak about and the points that I address, is testimony to that fact. If anyone thinks I'm scared to say it how it is or to hide behind the truth, then you can check my lecture, inshallah ta'ala, which I'll put in the link below, which is called the Muslims have become like the kuffar on the issue of imitating the kuffar. And you can see exactly how much of a sellout you might think I am after that. I'm not trying to praise myself. Wallahi, I am a lowly human being. But one thing I will not allow people to say is place me in a category. And there are, like I said, there are some people who are sadly, what you would say, you know, for the dollars, for the champagne dawah, too busy to speak the haqq because they're too busy making their money, their fame, letting their followers ride up. But you can't say that about me with all due respect. I swear by Allah, I am going to die one day. And I will be questioned by my Lord. I'm not going to speak on anything that will please anyone except for Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I will not speak from my whims or my desires or my logic or my intellect or my emotions. I will speak from the text. The Quran and the Sunnah will govern me and what govern you, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنْ كَالْجَمَلٍ أُلِفْ حَيْثُمَا قِيدٌ قَادٌ. And the believer is like a camel grabbed by the nose. He goes to wherever he's pulled. Notice the Prophet said held by the nose, not the neck. If I grab a camel by the neck, the camel can pull back and resist because the neck is strong. But if I grab the camel by the nose, the camel cannot resist. If he tries to resist, his nose will rip. So the camel will run with me as I pull him if I grab him by the nose. And that's exactly what me and you do. When the Quran and Sunnah point me to a direction, I run with the Quran and the Sunnah. So as for my nose to not be ripped, so as for me to not be punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not for me or you to differ or to speak against the Quran and the Sunnah when a matter becomes clear. So I'm just clarifying that before I mention to you what the middle ground is. Okay, this is not speaking from desires. This is purely speaking as a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's been enslaved by the text. I am a slave of Allah and I've been enslaved by His speech and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, which is also a revelation from Allah. That's my parameters. I can't step out of that. So what you're going to hear from me is only from that. So with all due respect, please do not speak with emotions. Do not understand this with clouded judgment or negative assumptions. Understand this as a person who's sincerely wishing to unveil the truth pertaining to this matter. So what is the middle ground, brothers and sisters? The middle ground is that the ruler must be obeyed and listened to. He must be obeyed and listened to, provided that you do not obey him when he tells you to do something that's against Allah. But if he doesn't tell you to do something that's against Allah, you must obey him and listen to him. But even then, that's one part. Like I told you, there's two extremes. Some people would only obey and listen. But yeah, the balance is what? Not only do you obey and listen, but it's also obligatory for you to correct the mistake of the ruler, for you to correct him and advise him. Now let's discuss both of these issues in a bit more detail and provide the evidences for it. The hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, hadith of Al-Irbad ibn Sariya radiyallahu anhu, in which the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam gave a farewell advice to his companions. Pay attention, this is farewell advice. They asked him for advice. He said, "Usikum bi taqwa. I advise you to have taqwa of Allah." And then right after mentioning the taqwa of Allah, what did he say? After mentioning the rights of Allah, he mentioned the rights of the leader. What did he say? He said, وَالسَّمْعِ وَالطَّاعَةِ. Hear and obey the leader. وَإِن تَأَمَّرَ عَلَيْكُمْ عَبْدٌ حَبَشِي. Even if it is a Abyssinian slave. Now pay attention, because we have to look at this. Why did the Prophet ﷺ say Abyssinian slave? Some people look at this as, is this racism from the Prophet ﷺ? I know it's far from racism, but rather this will shed some light on the issue of the leader. Why did the Prophet ﷺ say Abyssinian? Because a person who is not from Quraysh does not have the right to be a leader of the Muslims. He cannot take the position of Khalifatul Mu'mineen. Khalifatul Rasulullah, sorry, Amirul Mu'mineen. He cannot take that position. It is someone who has to be from Quraysh. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said he's Abyssinian. Because an Abyssinian, generally speaking, is not going to be from Quraysh. Why did he mention slave? Because a slave cannot be a leader. It has to be a free man. So when the Prophet ﷺ said Abyssinian, it could have been Chinese, it could have been Indian, it could have been British, Norwegian, or whatever. It could have been anything. No matter what race you're from, if you're not from Quraysh, you're not allowed to be a leader. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, even if he is Abyssinian. Slave, why? Because a slave cannot be a leader of the people. A slave cannot govern free men and women. So what that shows you is that this person is not befitting to be a leader on two accounts. He's not from Quraysh and he's not free. So now question, if a person is not from Quraysh and he's not free, yet he still is in authority, how did he get into that authority? There's no way he could have gotten into authority except through transgression, through crimes, through injustice, right? He's not allowed. That means he fought his way. He spilt blood. He killed people. Probably raped and took women as hostages and killed little children and all the atrocities that we might hear a leader do, right? The oppressive leaders. That person would have had to do that. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become a leader of the Muslims. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling not who, he's telling his companions, his Sahaba, like Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, Ali radiallahu anhum, ajma'in. He's telling people like them, if a man who's a slave, who's not from Quraysh, is in charge of you noble people, and there's no way he could have got that if he did not come with blood spillage and oppression, obey him. Sami' wa ta'a, hear and obey. Listen and obey. To show you, brothers and sisters, this is not me, this is the Prophet ﷺ. Another hadith Sahih Muslim, hadith Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be leaders who will come. They will not guide with the Prophet ﷺ's guidance, number one. Number two, they will not establish the prophetic sunnah. Number three, they will have the hearts of the shayateen. Number four, they will physically beat the people that they lead over. Number five, they will illegally take the wealth of these people. Pay attention, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned 5 negative things about these leaders. Can it get more negative than this? They will not guide with what the Prophet guided. They will not establish his sunnah. They will have hearts of devils. Brothers and sisters, they will have the hearts of devils, shayateen. Can you get a worse description like that? They will physically harm the people and they will steal their wealth. Hudayfa ibn Yaman radiyallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, what do we do in this situation? What do you think? What would you do? The Prophet ﷺ told us to be patient in this regard, that we hear and we obey the leader. We hear and we obey the leader. We give him his rights, brothers and sisters. We are optimistic and hopeful for our rights from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I can give evidence and evidence again and again and again and again and again and again and again, but the point is that the leader must be obeyed. Even if he's transgressive, even if he's oppressive, he must be obeyed. Why, brothers and sisters? I'll tell you in a second why. But then that's not enough. You can't just obey him and leave him towards his transgression. I told you there's another extreme. But we have to provide a balance. And the balance is that even though you must obey him, and you can't disobey him, and you can't uprise against him, and you can't go against him, that doesn't mean you condone his sins. You don't let him just go away. No, you advise him. It's obligatory for you to advise him. You advise him and you correct his mistakes. But brothers and sisters, do you correct his mistake publicly or privately? This is the issue now. You correct his mistake privately, as is the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in Kitab al-Sunnah by Imam ibn Abi Asim rahimahullah, authentically narrated, in which the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said that if you see something from the leader for which you want to advise him, if you want to advise a person who's in authority, and the Prophet ﷺ told us, do not do it publicly. This is the messenger saying it. So this means not on Facebook, not on social media, not on the minbar, not on news, not on protests. Don't do it publicly. Don't announce the advice, okay, publicly for the masses to hear. But rather, the messenger ﷺ said, you take him by the hand. Go look at the hadith yourself. Kitab al-Sunnah by Imam ibn Abi Asim rahimahullah. You grab him by the hand. Not just grab him by the hand, you seclude yourself with him. You seclude yourself, you isolate yourself with him. Okay, there's no one around. And then you advise him. You're in his ear. Leader, please. Ruler or whatever, king or whatever you are. This is wrong. Ittaqillah fi Allah Azza wa Jal. What are you doing? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, if he listens to you, he listens to you. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. But you fulfilled what he had upon you for you to do for him. Brothers and sisters, this is from the Prophet ﷺ. Which means you're directly going against the Prophet ﷺ by talking about these issues online. You have to do it privately. Another hadith, brothers and sisters, that further supplements this and really kind of drives the point home is the hadith narrated in Imam Ahmad's Musnad rahimahullah, in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked, which jihad is afdal, is the greatest jihad? What's the greatest jihad? And the Prophet ﷺ قال, he said, كلمة حق, it is a word of truth, عند سلطان جابر, against a tyrant ruler, عند سلطان جابر, to a tyrant ruler. Now, a lot of people, wallahi, they really misunderstand this hadith to mean, it's the greatest jihad. I'm on Facebook, I'm on social media, I'm talking about this is kalimatu haqqin inda sultanin Jabir. I'm doing the greatest jihad. But wallahi, they misunderstand. For anyone who has even a grounded, not even a grounded, subhanAllah, an elementary knowledge of the Arabic language, they know this word inda. This word inda, it means and shows and indicates close proximity. When the Prophet said a word of truth inda Sultan in Jabir, he said a word of truth right next to you, the tyrant ruler. You're going to be right next to him. You can't be on the minbar. You can't be on Facebook. No, inda, that's not inda. Inda means you're right next to him, you're with him. Open up basic grammar book, wallahi, you'll see it there. Okay, this means he's right next to him. So brothers and sisters, again, that shows that when you're next to him, you're not publicly, you're secluding yourself, you're private, you're gone to him, maybe you're in his chambers, you see him, and you just advise him there. Now brothers and sisters, the question comes to mind, why? Why can't you, if you see a tyrannical ruler, why do you have to obey him? Why? Why is it that when you see something wrong, you can't speak about it publicly? You see, brothers and sisters, it comes down to this. Our Sharia came to protect 5 things. It came to protect your religion, it came to protect your life, your wealth, your honor, and your sanity. These are the objectives, the maqasid of Sharia, okay? Anything that harms any of these 5, the Sharia came to stop it. Speaking against the tyrannical ruler and uprising against him and publicly speaking out is something that spreads fitna in the land. That fitna results in bloodshed, it results in rape, it results in children dying, it results in a lot of atrocities. And wallahi, it shocks me that people are still doing this, wallahi, they're still doing this. And we've seen what happened in the Arab Spring. The people spoke out against the leaders who were tyrannical. They spoke out against them. They got the people energized, which resulted in people not obeying the leaders anymore. You publicly speak out against the leaders, the people are not going to obey the leader anymore, which means they're going to uprise against him. Now, what do these leaders do? Come on, man. Like, honestly. You got some of the countries in North Africa where the leaders are literally spraying up people in public. The scholars say even this applies to the disbelieving leader as well. The disbelieving leader is a kafir and he doesn't need to be obeyed. He doesn't. But if disobeying him and speaking out against him is going to cause great harm, then you don't go against him. Look at this Bashar al-Assad, this filthy, well, I was going to say dog, but even that's an insult to the dogs. This filthy pharaoh of our time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with him in the way that is befitting. This criminal, look at him. He's a kafir, huh? But going against him, has it caused more good or more harm? Wallahi, brothers and sisters, don't delude yourself. Wallahi, it's caused more harm. Wallahi, it's caused more harm. In the last 4 or 5 years, the uprising has happened to him. Then in the last 60 years, him and his bloody dirty father were in charge. Why? Because it was bad. But our sisters weren't being raped in broad daylight. And our brothers weren't being slaughtered, weren't being exiled from their homes. Children weren't being massacred in the streets, having to eat dogs because they and cats, the carcasses of dogs and cats because they don't have food, and freezing to death into like becoming like popsicles in the winter. That never happened. That happened when you uprise against him. And the same, I'm saying that's a kafir now. That's a kafir. But if you've got a Muslim leader and he's oppressive, the same thing can happen to you. But because he's a Muslim and he's a Muslim leader, he has a right for you to obey him anyway, as per these narrations that have been mentioned. Not because he's righteous or because we're begging friends with him. No, with all due respect, I've got no affiliation. No nothing. Only affiliations with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We're restricted to this. And wallahi, it upsets. Wallahi, I'm saying that honestly, like I said, refer back to this Arab Spring thing. Would you really wish for the same thing to happen to other countries? Let's just say, for example, you know, like Saudi Arabia, you want to turn the people against the leader there? which caused them to now uprise? Do you want that to happen, and for bloodshed to happen, and for more Muslim men and women to be raped, and for more Muslim men and women to be killed? Do you want the same to happen to them that has happened to these other countries? Has even one of these Arab Springs been successful? Brothers and sisters, no, it hasn't. Please, just, we have to use our senses now. We have to use our minds now. We have to really be clued on. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from, the wise person is the one who learns from the mistakes of the others. But it shocks me, this is the way the shaitan's playing with the people, is that we've seen this happen, and now we're repeating the same mistakes that we've made. Wallahi, it is shocking. Wallahi, I'm confused. I don't get it. How are people doing the same thing? Do you want that to happen also in Pakistan now? Do you want men and women to be raped in Pakistan as well now? Do you want it to be killed? Do you want it to go up against their leaders? Do you want it to go against the leaders in all the other countries? Do you just want Muslims to be killed everywhere? Because they don't have the strength to overcome the oppression that's there right now. And anyway, the Prophet ﷺ told us, even if he's tyrannical, be patient. And the problem is anyway not with the leaders. The leaders are a problem, but they only became a problem because me and you, remember what we just mentioned earlier, me and you were the problem in the first place. Me and you were the ones who went wrong in the first place. So with that said, brothers and sisters, this is a topic that has a lot to be discussed, but inshallah ta'ala, now is not really the time and place. I just want to quickly address this issue. I want to direct you to some resources. There is a lecture by Brother Sa'ad in which he went into a bit more detail about this issue of how the leaders actually come as a result of our own actions. I didn't even touch the surface, but he went to it in a bit more detail, so you can go to the link below, inshallah ta'ala. I also have a lecture on the topic of how the sins that the ummah actually commit are a direct result of the calamities that we actually undergo, and also I'll place that below. There's a discussion pertaining to ruling by other than the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and does a leader become a kafir if he rules by other than the law of Allah azza wa jal. There is a in-depth but broken down video that I will direct you to, inshallah ta'ala, in the link below, which I really would hope that you would take the time out to watch, inshallah ta'ala, which will really clear this issue of the rulers. Even me myself at one point, I was confused on this issue, and I took the stance that many of you take today, about the issue of ruling by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you look at all the evidences, you look at the ayat and the hadith, and you bring them all together, wallahi, it really helps, because sometimes the ruler can become a kafir and sometimes he can't. It's kufr, but minor kufr. But inshallah ta'ala, just direct yourself to the video, and hopefully you'll be able to see a lot more, inshallah ta'ala. And finally, because the month of Ramadan is fast approaching, I would like to welcome you all to a program that we have available for you guys called Fasting and Furious, to help you to make the best of your Ramadan that you possibly could this month. It's absolutely available for all of you guys, inshallah ta'ala, to put access as a gift from us to you. All you have to do is place your email address, and then we'll send you an email address. Place your email address in the link below, fastingandfurious.com, and we'll send you an email, inshallah ta'ala, showing you how you can access that program. You will not only get access to that, but all the other courses, Muslim Survival Guide, including 2 other courses that we're releasing in the month of Ramadan, one on Surah Al-Fatiha and one of the last 15 surahs at the end of the Quran, surahs that we all kind of know and memorize. So hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, you'll be able to make use of that as well. And that's a gift to you from myself and the rest of the team, because the month of Ramadan is there. We just want you guys to be able to benefit more than anything else. So just go to fastingandfurious.com, leave your email address, and then we'll send you the rest of the information how you can access that. With that said, I hope you guys benefited. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.